Hi there, this is Solitaire Ronin from Solitaire Ronin Films, and welcome to another double take. Today I'm going to talk about two Hideo Gosha films starring Tatsuya Nakadai. I apologise, as I seem to have been on a Nakadai run at the moment, but he is so wonderful, and I've certainly discovered a lot more excellent Hideo Gosha films. So we're going to talk about Goyokin from 1969 and The Wolves from 1971. Both these films are absolutely fantastic. Both of these films really need a Blu-ray release because they are arguably the two most beautiful Gosha films that I've seen so far. I think I've seen 8 out of his 23 films. But these two, from a colour perspective, from a shot composition perspective, these are arguably his two best looking films. We'll start with Goyokin. It's 1969. This co-stars Tetsuya Nakadai, and there's lots of other familiar faces. I mean, both these films are actually somewhat linked to the sea. Goyokin is also a little bit like The Great Silence by Sergio Corbucci, in the sense, as you can see in the cover, there's quite a lot of snow in the film, so it's perhaps a bit of an outlier for Jideki Chanbara films. We don't see too many of them in the snow, the same way with The Great Silence we don't really see too many spaghetti westerns in the snow. And both films are about the past and the present, and also wondering what the future will be. So Nakadai stars as a samurai who has left the clan because Tanba decided 10 years ago to help the clan in the eyes of the shogunate to get more money. He decided to sink a ship. It's full of gold, and then he hires people from a local fishing village to go out and get the stuff off the boat, and then massacre all the fishermen and all the people of the village to cover up. And Nakadai didn't agree with this at the time, but didn't really do anything about it, and kind of turned a blind eye and just left the clan. Then fast forward years later, and Tamba is pretty much planning the same thing, to sink another ship, get some money to improve the clan's standing, but it's going to mean a lot of innocent people are going to be slaughtered. And again, it's about the class samurai shogunate being better, or not necessarily being better, but being more valuable or being more important than a village full of fishermen and their wives and their children. They're kind of just expendable, just collateral damage. to getting the clan more money. Whereas this time Nakadai is actually going to do something about it and potentially stop Tanba's plan. There are other subplots in the film as well, which I'm not going to go into. But this is just a wonderful, wonderful film. And it does have a wonderful climax in the snow with Nakadai and Tamba. And again, the ocean, the sea, as I said, this and the wolves, both films are on the coast, and of course the legend of the sea is it doesn't have a memory, whereas the characters, certainly the lead characters that Nakadai plays in both films, of course, does have a memory, and is trying to right wrongs or right the mistakes that he made in the past. Now, as good as Goyokin is, personally I would say The Wolves is even better. This might actually be my favourite Gosha. So this stars Nakadai. It also stars Noboru Ando, who was an ex-Yakuza himself. He's in Violent Streets, which Eureka released, which really kind of opened the door to my interest in Gosha, because before that I'd just seen Sword of the Beast and Three Outlaw Samurai, which were lovely little films, but not to the level of Violent Streets, and certainly not to the level of things like The Wolves and Bandit versus Samurai Squadron. So Ando, he's the guy with the scar on his face, the real scar. He just has the weight of experience in his performance. Tetsuya Tamba is in this as well, and as I said, there's lots of familiar faces. Now this is a little bit different. This is almost a bridge between Goyokin and something like Violent Streets. So this is set in 1926, which is the beginning of the Showa era, which is Emperor Hirohito, which is the beginning of kind of militarism and the re-embracing of militarism for Japan, which obviously ended up in World War II. So it's kind of, there's mention of the 1923 earthquake, there's economic decline, and when Hirohito came in to begin the Showa era, lots of criminals in prison were given amnesty because it's the start of a new era. So out of prison come Iwahashi, who is Nakadai's character, and other criminals. So there was two clans, and they had a massive fight over lumber, and it sounds daft, over lumber, which would eventually supply the Manchurian Railroad, and which obviously led to the invasion of Manchuria, which was a stepping stone to Japan in World War II. And the mob were involved with the building of the Manchurian Railroad, as we see in the final moments of the film, which is kind of sardonic and blackly funny. Anyway, these guys have come out. They were involved in this fight where lots of people were killed, including the boss of one of the clans. And Nakadai was the person who killed the boss of one of the clans. So he comes out kind of a bit lost what I'm going to do, and then he finds out that both clans have actually merged now, but obviously there's resentment from each side, especially the side that Nakadai killed the boss of, strangely enough. So there's this tension as soon as he comes out. And again, there's little subplots. And by this time, the head of his own clan has died. He was a bit older. But eventually we find out how his death came about. On Nakadai's side, if you like, there's another guy who is obviously not happy about the merger, and he potentially knows things about the death of the other boss that not necessarily died of old age. And some of the kind of hardcore elements of Nakadai's side, they seem to be getting killed off by these two female assassins, and we don't really know why. And then you have Ando's character, who was in prison at the same time as Nakadai, and he was on the opposite side of Nakadai. But as the film progresses, he becomes an ally to Nakadai, as far as learning the truth and finding the truth out about what's actually been going on. Added to this is Aya, whose kind of fiance Ozeki is Ando's character. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this. I'm trying my best. Aya's fiance, who was also in prison and believed to be away, he comes back, but Aya has been betrothed to the new head of the bad clan, or the bad gang, shall we say. And obviously that doesn't please Nakadai either, but you got to follow the rules to make nice between the two gangs. But then her fiance from the past comes back, and that shakes things up as well. So you just have this basically powder keg that's ready to explode at any moment. It's a film that's 135 minutes. It could have actually been longer. It's so brilliantly paced. It doesn't drag for a second. Nakadai is absolutely sensational, because Nakadai has that ability to do, the kind of psychopathic glee, but he can also be a really nice guy, but he can also be that dead-eyed assassin. But when he comes out of prison, he's obviously a bit disorientated about what he's going to do, so he does the kind of little boy Lost routine with his eyes, and he can just do it all, and that's what makes him so great. And then obviously, predictably, you can figure out how the film ends, but it's set in the kind of backdrop of this big festival by the sea, which just gives it more extra flavour, as this climax is shot during this wonderful looking colourful festival, where everybody's checks and balances get balanced. It's just so good. Again, it's paced brilliantly. Again, both these films really need to be on Blu-ray. Gosha really needs to be kind of championed more. As I said, I only really knew him through a couple of kind of solid films, and then Violent Streets came out, and then Samurai Wolf 1 and 2 by Eureka. And then I've obviously picked up some DVDs. But all of these should be in Blu-rays. Because it's just wonderful, both of them. The production design on some of the kind of frescoes within both gangs' headquarters are just absolutely beautiful. Sure, there are violent moments, there's bloodshed, but again, it's done in a very honest, a very brutal manner. And one little tidbit is there's a character that makes little origami swans of different coloured papers. So you wonder whether that was the inspiration for Tony Leung making origami little birds, little cranes, and hard boiled with John Woo. I wonder if that's where John Woo got the idea from. But both these films are absolutely wonderful. I would say Goyokin, the DVD print, it is quite dark, and there is lots of dark scenes. The climax of the film is kind of about luring another boat onto the coast by lighting fires on two kind of edges of this cliff. So there's a lot of darkness, and you're not actually quite sure what's going on sometimes. And again, that's why both these films need a Blu-ray. But both these films are absolutely brilliant. Goyokin in 69 and The Wolves in 71. I kind of do prefer The Wolves. But Nakadai is just absolutely brilliant in both, and The Wolves just has an amazing cast. Again, all these guys, you'll recognise their faces if you've watched enough Japanese films from the 60s and 70s. But two brilliant films by Gosha, and again, he really needs to be championed a bit more, and we need to see more of his films getting Blu-ray releases, because as I said, these two are visually stunning films. Go watch some more Gosha and more Nakadai. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Double Take. Please let me know if you've seen Goyokin and The Wolves and what you think of them, and hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes of Double Take. This is Solitude Ronan from Solitude Ronan Films, saying farewell.